Inklux here, and today we are reading Black Panther's lore. So basically, he has two, so we're gonna read both of them today. Uh, I hope you guys enjoy this series. I'm gonna do every single character, and whenever, like, you know how there's some that are logged. When those come out, I'll make a video on that. But let's get into it. I do apologize me not doing the full thing because it takes a long time to read these. This video is probably gonna be kind of a long one because that's two. But let's get it. I hope you guys enjoy this. And I hope my reading is up to you guys' standard. Well, let's get into it. Silence among the stars. While he gazed out over the landscape of the intergalactic empire of Wakanda's throne room, King T'Challa paused for a moment to marvel at what his people had built. His mother had always dreamed of reaching the stars, but T'Challa and his sister Shuri, along with countless brilliant Wakandan scientists and engineers, had finally made that dream a reality. As Wakanda's influence spread across the galaxy, bringing more people and planets under the banner and the protection and the Wakandan ideal, progress and tradition intertwined, science and magic woven together, remained the pillar of the empire. T'Challa did his best to embody both sides of nations' complex heritage, but on occasion he found the two at odds. Today T'Challa stood in the hall of T'Challa, listening for ancient voices that would not speak to him. The Orisha, the pantheon of gods worshipped by the people of Wakanda, had fallen unusually silent, causing great concern. Even Bast, the goddess who had chosen T'Challa as her avatar, the Black Panther, seemed to be absent from this secret place. Perhaps T'Challa thought they simply had nothing to say, but the king of Wakanda found that hard to believe. After all, Wakanda was at war. Another king, Victor Von Doom of the Latveria, had tampered with the fabric of space and time, unleashing a chrono cascade access countless dimensions. Even T'Challa's empire, which had been a safe haven for so many for so long, wasn't immune to its effects. And now he had learned that there were two dooms from two different timelines vying for control. Both had tried to enlist T'Challa in their battles, suggesting that Wakanda and Latveria were more alike than different. T'Challa respectfully disagreed. The king of Wakanda knew better than to trust either doom, but he also knew the time would come where he would have to choose a side, not only to protect his empire but all of the existence as well. Wakanda could not remain neutral for much longer when so much was at stake. T'Challa had so many questions, all of which the gods and goddesses of the Orisha refused to answer, all of them save for one. Not long ago, while praying to Bast for guidance and wisdom, T'Challa's humble pleas were instead answered by a goddess long banished from Wakanda, Bast's sister, Lu- Kaluna the Betrayer. Her quest for vengeance against her sister had led to Kililuna's ruin centuries ago, and her name had rarely been uttered by the people of Wakanda since. But now she had chosen to come forth and speak with T'Challa in Bast's accent, warning him of a darkness to come, a darkness that she claimed had already tainted the Orisha. T'Challa didn't know what to believe, certainly not the words of one as treacherous as Kiluna. He dared not to risk allying himself with Bast's deceitful sister, in fear that the Orisha might rain their judgment down upon the entire empire for his disloyalty. But yet something in the betrayer's voice rang true. The Orisha's silence had given T'Challa cause of concern, and now Kiluna had sowed the seeds of doubt. It was taking all T'Challa's willpower not to let those seeds grow wild. But the reason for Orisha's absence would have to remain a mystery for a while longer. The king of Wakanda had other more urgent matters to attend to. He had been summoned by his sister Shuri to discuss some recent dip- developments regarding the restoration of the time stream. One crisis at a time, though, thought T'Challa as he took a deep breath and entered their lab. "Welcome, brother," Shuri said, as T'Challa stepped into the room. All the scientists inside, Shuri included, crossed her arms in an X across their chests as a salute to their monarch. Sister, T'Challa responded with a smile and salute of his own. The two had not agreed on much these past weeks since the time stream began to disintegrate, but he still had a deep love for his sister and even deeper respect for her work. Were you off brooding in the hall of T'Challa again? Shuri asked. Not brooding, T'Challa said. Shuri asked. Not brooding, T'Challa said. Waiting for guidance. Your people are waiting for you to guide them, Shuri responded, and I think I can help. I've been gathering data about the time stream entanglement. Data does not always tell the whole story, sister, T'Challa said. As he spoke, he was fully aware of the irony of his situation. He was currently withholding critical data about Kiluna and her claims that the Orisha had fallen into some dark corruption, yet he decided to keep the information under wraps for the time being, at least until he knew for sure he did not wish to distract his sister from her efforts, nor to bring the fury of Bast down upon them. This data tells us enough, Shuri continued, fully aware that her older brother was holding something back, but she didn't have the time to coax secrets out of him. There was science to be done. I have been consulting with Reed Richards and Tony Stark from the other Chronoverse on their plans for the time stream re-interrogation device. Sure, we continued, and I think we are close to the breakthrough. With your brilliant mind at their disposal, I would expect no less, T'Challa responded proudly, placing a hand gently upon his sister's shoulders. But he could sense an unusual tension in her body. He knew she was about to ask for something, and that it was something she already knew her brother would not like. Reed and Tony have a theory, Shuri began slowly, each word carefully calculated, a theory that I believe has some merit. Say what you need, sister, Giselle urged. Chronovium, Cherry said, quietly knowing her brother might disapprove. More specifically, chronovibranium. Chronovium was a crystal that had begun to manifest after the time stream entanglement rippled across realities. According to the research of the Wakanda's scientists, unique variations of chronovium seem to be forming in locations of great power. In Wakanda, the crystals were infused with more than just chrono energy. They were also contain power drawn directly from the vibranium star at the heart of the empire. Witches and Stark have their own supplies. T'Challa and dismissively, those will have to suffice. I'm telling you now, brother, they will not. Shuri responded pointedly, beginning to lose her patience. The fate of multiple universes hinged on her collaboration with Earth's heroes. This was no time for her big brother to be his usual stubborn self. This is just an excuse for Stark to get his hand on Wakanda toys. This is not an excuse for Stark to get his hands on Wakanda's toys. Shuri continued. I have run the numbers independently. The TRD can restore our dimension to its proper state, but it needs a power source greater than what standard chronovium can supply. The answer is no, T'Challa said firmly. Then the question is why? Shuri said, pushing back whatever T'Challa was hiding from her. She wasn't about to let it bring about the end of all of this. That is, if there was a way to go through to her brother as there always had been in the past, she had to find it. I cannot say, T'Challa replied. Not for certain, at least, but I have a reason to believe that there is a greater darkness awaiting us. Surely something even the gods themselves may not be able to protect our people from. Then let us protect them together, Shuri said. For now, this is a matter I must face alone, T'Challa replied. How many times must I remind you, brother? Shuri asked. You are never alone, and neither are we. Wakanda is no longer an isolationist nation. We are a galactic force. If we wish for an empire to stand, we must begin to act as such and lead by example. That start by sharing our resources with those in need. We still know too little about the power of chronovibranium, T'Challa said. Something and softly and silently. We cannot risk it falling into other hands, even trusted ones, until we do. But, Sherry interjected. But, T'Challa continued, you have my permission to further your research on these crystals in hopes that we can safely unlock their secrets in order to pass them along. And until then, sure yes, until then I offer our allies unlimited access to Wakanda's greatest resource. T'Challa said, you. Shuri wanted to scream in frustration at her brother, but instead she bit her tongue and took the compliment. After all, coming from T'Challa, those were almost as rare as heart-shaped herbs. As T'Challa left the lab, Shuri let out a sigh of frustration, knowing how much work she had ahead of her. But the king himself breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the fate of the Empire was in good hands, at least for the moment. When Shuri, busy researching chronocrystals and engineering universal solutions, T'Challa could turn his full attention to a larger threat looming on the horizon. Even the Dueling Dooms would have to wait until he could identify and locate the great source of darkness, of which he had been warned. But how? Charlotte dared not to reach out to Lil Luna for answers. Totems of Bass were everywhere in the Empire. Even if she was not eager to answer his prayers, the Panther goddess was surely listening to his every word, and she would not take kindly to his betrayal. Wakanda needed the Black Panther now more than ever, so T'Challa could not risk being stripped of his mantle or the power that came with it. The king walked with purpose across the center of his city, bearing T'Challa back toward the Hall of T'Challa. As he passed by, he paused at the panther statue, placing his hand gently upon its head. "Where are you, Bess?" T'Challa said out loud as he gazed into the eyes of the vibranium sculpture. "I am here." A voice replied. The statue began to glow with purple energy of T'Challa, the Wakandan spirit plane. T'Challa instantly knew that it was Bass speaking to him, but there was a tone in her voice he had never heard before, something sinister. "I have been waiting for you, my champion, in the shadows." "I am at your service," T'Challa said, knowing deep within that his words were not fully true. Yet he knew that he must continue the however you say that, devotion to the tainted goddess until he discovered the truth about about her current state. "And you have served me well," Bess replied, her words dripping with darkness. "But you are not the only king in black that I have come to favor." Ooh. As Bass spoke, the sky began to grow dim. Instinctively, T'Challa looked up toward the Hall of T'Challa to see the tendrils of Albani energy ensnaring its sacred spire. He didn't know if this was a yet another side effect of the time stream entanglement, or if it was the first signs of the dark presence that which Kaluna alluded. But T'Challa knew he had no time to waste. Either way, the fate of the Empire depended upon his immediate action. The Black Panther sprung forward, racing into the Hall of T'Challa. T'Challa did not know what awaited him within, but he did not fear. Not even the gods themselves could prevent him from protecting his people in their time of need. Even in the face of the darkness, threats the universe had ever known, there was only one thing to which T'Challa would pledge his loyalty. Not Doom, not even Bass, just Wakanda. Forever. Holy, that was peak. That was peak. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Now we get to read The Blood of Kings. The Blood of Kings. It started out as just another night in the Empire of the Eternal Night, known as New York City. The blood moon hung in the sky, casting an eerie glow on the silent streets. Most of Manhattan's citizens had long since locked themselves away in safe houses to protect themselves from the creatures of the night that stalked the urban island. Those who dared to venture out in the darkness rarely returned to tell the tale. Suddenly, a circle of energy appeared in the center of Times Square, though the new neon signs of electronic billboards had long since gone dark. The strange portals crackling energy illuminated the once bustling crossroads. For the first time in what seems like ages, a figure, clad in the black from head to toe, stepped through the doorway between dimensions. "I have arrived, sister," King T'Challa said, kneeling down and placing a hand on the pavement. "It has been far too long since I paid a visit home. Earth may have been our home once, brother," his sister Shuri replied over the calm blink. The king's kimono bead bracelet, "but even so, you are a long way from Wakanda." "I am," T'Challa said, looking down 42nd Street to see the top of the Baxter building peeking over the other skyscrapers. Holy. But fortunately, family is never far away. The portal is closing now, Shuri warned. Since our Komodo beads are not yet capable of broadcasting an interdimensional signal, we will not be able to communicate until you reach the laboratory of Dr. Richards. "Do not fear for me," T'Challa said, reassuring. "I am the Black Panther. Bass is on my side." "This is exactly why I fear for you," Shirley responded, someone's voice beginning to fade as the circle of the energy vanished from sight. "Now more than ever." The king of Wakanda understood his sister's concerns. Bass, the panther goddess who had been chosen T'Challa as her avatar, had recently fallen under the sway of the Dark Force that is spreading its influence across their dimension. As both the Black Panther and the ruler of the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, T'Challa had devoted his life to serving both his goddess and his people. Now those two things were at odds. He could not purge Bass of the this corruption in time. He feared that all Wakanda might be swallowed by the growing void. But Wakanda is not the only place in danger of being consumed. While Shuri was busy trying to find a way to rebuild the collapsing multiverse, she had learned that many of her closest interdimensional allies were facing the grave threat of a vampiric plague. Though T'Challa had at first been reluctant to offer Wakanda's secrets to these otherworldly heroes, his sister eventually convinced him that the Reed Richards of the alternate reality was completely worthy of their trust and their aid. Thus, T'Challa decided it was time to pay a diplomatic visit to this other New York, not only formalize the bond between his empire and this alternate Earth, but to deliver a potential cure to the sickness infecting so that many New Yorkers, a cure that until now had only been consumed by a small handful of Wakandians throughout the course of the charted history, the heart-shaped herb. Traditionally, this rare Wakanda plant was only to be consumed by Bast's chosen protector during a sacred ritual that would bestow upon them the powers of the Black Panther. For a normal human, one not from a royal bloodline or chosen to be a physical manifestation of an ancient deity, the herb still had profound effects. When consumed, purging toxins and restoring vigor to those in even the most dire of health. On Earth, the heart-shaped herb would only grow in vibranium-rich soil of Wakanda. However, royal priests had since learned to cultivate it in Burin T'Challa, the capital city of their new interstellar society. Even so, the crop of this sacred herb was still extremely limited, and T'Challa feared that it could do more harm than good in the wrong hands. As such, he chose to deliver the herd to Richards himself. T'Challa's bodyguards, the Dor Milaje, worried that their king's decision was far too reckless. Shirley feared that perhaps Bass is her compromised state had clouded her brother's better judgment. But as T'Challa looked down the empty New York street with nary a soul in sight, he felt confident in this decision. It was not feeling that would last long. As he traveled east towards his destination, the headquarters of the Fantastic Four, located at the corner of 42nd Street and Madison Avenue, It wasn't long before he found himself passing a small group of vampires, feeding on the blood of an unfortunate civilian. Ever since he was a boy, T'Challa had been trained to stalk the jungles in silence. He felt he would have no trouble slipping past the monsters unnoticed. As they all seemed deeply distracted by their prey, T'Challa kept to the shadows, making not even the slightest sound. As he passed by the horde of vampires, they suddenly turned their heads to glare his direction with their dead eyes. "You are not clever as you thought," Basser whispered in T'Challa's mind. The Black Panther ignored the taunts of the Dark Goddess. He had more urgent matters to deal with. The vampires had left their meal behind and were rushing towards T'Challa in hopes of a royal feast. T'Challa leaped up, tending vibranium claws for the fingertips of his gloves. The razor-sharp claws sunk into the old stonework on the nearby building, allowing T'Challa to climb up the side of with ease. When he reached the rooftop, he paused for a moment, glad to have found safety, but the light of the blood moon quickly revealed that he was not alone, nor was he anywhere close to safe. Another group of vampires converged and began to chase T'Challa, staying close to his heels. As he leapt from rooftop to rooftop, the king of Wakanda soon realized that he was being herded away from the Baxter building and toward Central Park. But why? "You have the blood of kings," Bast whispered. "They can smell it." Perhaps the goddess was right, T'Challa thought, but he had more than the blood of kings. He had their years of knowledge and training. He had their proud legacy and would not let it die here in the darkness. T'Challa stopped running and turned to face his pursuers with a frenzy of fierce kicks and powerful slashes. He began to thin out the horde, one vampire at a time. Before long, there was no foes left standing. "Well done, my chosen one," Bass whispered, "but you have forgotten one thing." Black Panther turned to see another figure standing on the rooftop behind him. He was baffled that his heightened senses had not detected the new arrival. "Here, you are not the king." T'Challa gazed at the strange man approaching him. He was tall and slender, with pale skin and long white hair. He was more finely tailored black suit and a long crimson cape. His shoulders were adorned with ornate armor that met in the middle where a glowing crimson gem was mounted on his chest. "I really should slay you where you stand for striking down so many of my devoted soldiers," the man said, "but I have a feeling you would be much more used to me undead." "I would I would prefer to remain fully alive," Churchill said, lunging forward with his claws. With effortless strike from the back of his hand, the man sent Churchill reeling backward. T'Challa instinctively dug his claws into the rooftop to prevent himself from plummeting over the edge, pulling himself back to his feet slowly. He took a moment to realize, to come on to size up his new opponent. "Who are you?" T'Challa asked. "I have done, I have gone by many names over the centuries," the man replied. "I am known best as Dracula." Dracula walked over to T'Challa and stared him in the eyes. As badly as T'Challa wanted to attack his foe again, he felt as though he had somehow lost complete control over his own actions. Compelled by the Lord of Vampires, the King of Wakanda fell to his knees. "But you may call me your Majesty," Dracula finished with a grin, his sharp fangs flashing in the moonlight. Dracula leaned in and ready to sink his teeth to T'Challa's neck, but when he tried to bite his victim, Dracula reeled in pain. The Black Panther's vibranium mesh armor was not only impenetrable, it had a number of self-defense mechanisms built into his nanofibers. T'Challa prayed to the Orisha that his suit would be enough to keep him safe, but as he learned all too well of late, his gods were not listening. "If I will not have your blood," Draco said, "I still have your devotion." The Vampire King reached for the red gem on his chest and removed it from his armor. As T'Challa gazed at it, realized he had seen crystals like it before. It was a shard of chronovium, the temporal constructs that his sister had been studying since the onset of the time stream entanglement. The event that had ripped countless realities on Sender, more specifically It was a rare mystical form of chronovium, native to its alternative dimensions nearly as a crystal as blood. This crystal is infused with forbidden magic, Dracula said. Soon it will be my key to ruling this world, but for now, let it be my key to conquering yours. Still unable to move, T'Challa found himself completely enveloped in the glowing red energy emanating from Dracula's shard of the blood red chronovium. He, he is remaking you in his image, Bass said. In T'Challa's mind, he heard whisper turning into a growl. How dare he? You belong to me! Not any longer, T'Challa grunted, feeling the transference taking place within him. Bass' growl grew into a roar, but was suddenly silenced as the energy surrounding Trilla began to fade. T'Challa slumped to the ground, exhausted and hungry. How strange, Dracula said as he stepped closer to the collapsed T'Challa. Your blood smelled so sweet before, like a rare flower on the African plains, but now it has lost its bunqueat. You are no longer different than any of other minions. That is where you are wrong, Jill said quietly. Mustering every ounce of strength left in his body, Jill fought against Dracula's control, rising to his feet and staring Dracula straight in the eyes. I am no mere minion, he said. I am T'Challa. I am the Black Panther. I am king of Wakanda. With the T'Challa slashed at Dracula, knocking the shard of blood chronovium from the unsuspecting vampire's hands. The crystal skidded across the rooftop, bouncing precariously on its edge. Dracula broke eye contact with T'Challa and raced to grab the crystal before it plunged down to the street below. And I shall be your end, T'Challa finished. When Dracula turned once more to face his defiant foe, the Black Panther was already gone. Not even the slightest scent of his blood was left on the wind. Furious, the Lord of the Vampires let out a fiercely howl that could be heard echoing across all of Manhattan. Elsewhere in the shadows, in the dark alley, T'Challa took a moment to recover from confrontation and as his new situation. Until now, the power of the heart-shaped herb flowing through his veins has always protected him and provided him with the enhanced abilities, but T'Challa surmised that the magic of the blood Cornivian was somehow negating the herb's effects. That was why Dracula could no longer smell his blood. It was why T'Challa could no longer hear Bass whispering inside his head, and it was why T'Challa's newfound taste for blood grew stronger by the moment. Before he journeyed to New York, T'Challa had been worried about how his connection to Bass' tainted spirit might affect him. Now he found himself afflicted by another curse, uncertain which of the two would be his ultimate undoing. T'Challa pulled the sample of the herb-shaped herb from the hidden pouch on his body, momentarily considering whether he should consume it to cure himself now or save it to potentially cure thousands of innocents later. He didn't have a clear answer. New York might have been as black as the darkest night, but all that the king of Wakanda could see was red. Dang. Black Panther has gone through it. Holy, I feel bad. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed uh this new video every day. Trying to. Thank you guys for watching and have a God bless day and Glux out.